So, leveling with Rogue is still the fastest and strongest in the game. And I'm going to show you what you need to know and what to do early on, what I did, and how Season 1 made it even better. What's up, amigos? I hope everyone is enjoying Season 1. I honestly know I am. As always, my friends, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more daily Diablo 4 content. And let's go ahead and jump into the video. So real quick, man, I mean, Rogue is still just so darn good. Even throughout the global nerfs everyone experienced, we still crush things. We are just squishier. But that's all right, because we have new tools that came with Season 1, and those are the Hearts of the Malignant. And if you follow my TikTok, I actually dropped a video yesterday explaining how much I enjoy this brutal caged heart of trickery. What this does is when you use a subterfuge skill, it drops a shadow decoy that taunts all nearby enemies for 5 seconds and then explodes for shadow damage. The radius on this is nuts. Like, absolutely insane. I notice it taunting stuff off screen all the time. So let's go ahead and take a look at my current build. So I know that there's a lot of new Rogue players that are trying Rogue for the first time, so I will explain this, you know, a little bit in depth, but I don't want to take too much time on this. So puncture is our basic skill, and even though we throw daggers and it looks like a melee skill, it counts as a marksman skill. So why this is important, we'll get into that in a moment here. From puncture, we run enhance, of course, and then into fundamental. This allows us to apply vulnerable. This is our main source of vulnerable early on, so we constantly spam this. At level 15, you unlock your rogue quest. You can then unlock your specialization and its combo points, and we use combo points throughout the entirety of the game. So twisting blade, obviously our main ability. I run improved twisting blades for the daze effect instead of advanced twisting blades. I personally like the daze because it pairs up with passives. So sturdy, we take 3 points in this, 12% close damage reduction, and we do take 3 points in the siphon and strikes. And I will touch on this in a moment here. It's now a lucky hit chance because of the patch that dropped. So this did change up a little bit on how we want our gear to look later on. So 3 points in the weapon mastery, of course. Our main hand, you always want it to be swords for the increased damage multiplier. I run dash, and the reason I run dash is because of the brutal heart that I mentioned earlier. I think it really does open up a lot of mobility options because you're safer to play that way. So because I run dash, I run enhance, which allows us to get that extra crit strike damage when we dash through enemies. And I also run discipline dash. When I dash through enemies, I slow them. If they're already slowed, they're dazed. If they're already slowed and they become dazed, they then get knocked down because of trick attacks when I crit strike a dazed enemy. And normally what you're doing with twisted blades is you're dashing through enemies after you already puncture them with twisted blades. That way your twisted blades skirts through the entire pack of mobs and starts twirling around. Concussive, after we knock down an enemy, which again, through trick attacks, we can knock down, but we also knock down through our poison trap. We gain crit strike chance. Speaking of poison trap, here's our poison trap. We run enhanced, which is our knockdown. And because of the pairing of our brutal gem, again, the malignant heart, when we drop poison trap, that's what drops the decoy, taunts everything in. They come in, they take chip damage from the poison trap, and they get knocked down. It's honestly so good. I love the combo. You have a choice between countering to reset your imbuement skills or subverting. I'm running World Tier 4 right now at a low level, so I like subverting because it just lets me deal more damage. We take 3 points in the exploit. This allows us to deal more damage to healthy and injured enemies, and we deal... or at 3 points in the malice, we deal more damage to vulnerable enemies. We run 2 imbuments. We run poison and shadow. So we run poison imbuement into enhance, into blended, which allows our crit strikes to deal more poison damage. This, you know, my current setup I have for bossing is bursting venoms, so I'm just infinitely stacking poison, but it also really does help you clear early on while you're leveling. It's so insane. So normally what we were doing is we were just leveling with poison blades. But again, because of the malignant heart, this changed everything. Because I can drop every 5 seconds a taunt, and I'm free to just do what I need to do, whether it's reposition or just make an offensive, you know, engagement, I can engage and dash through with shadow imbuement and just start clearing stuff. So The combo and the change of pace is so nice, I feel. So because of that, we run Shadow Imbuement all the way up into Blended. This is just another source of vulnerable affliction. And because we're running Shadow Imbuement, we run Shadow Crash, but we also run Consuming Shadows because we are just clearing things with shadow damage. We constantly have full energy when we're clearing out packs. But because of our energy problems that we have on single target bosses, we do opt to take Innervation. We take 3 points into here, gives us a lucky hit chance to gain 8 energy. Now we take Second Wind. Every 100 energy you spend grants 10% lucky hit chance. Because our Siphon and Strikes has changed into a lucky hit, we want to stack lucky hit. So I'm actually missing 1 point from Renown, but when I get that last point, this is where my last point will go. So on top of this, you also want to look for lucky hit on your rings and your gloves now. 3 points in the Trap Mastery. Because we run Poison Trap, we want the increased crit strike chance against vulnerable and crowd controlled enemies. And then 3 points in the Precision Imbuement for the crit strike chance for imbued attacks, 2 points in the Deadly Venom for increased poison, and then our Keystone passive, we're running Close Quarters Combat. This is why I mentioned earlier that Puncture, for those newer rogue players, is a marksman ability. So Close Quarters Combat, damaging a close enemy with marksman or cutthroat skills each grant 10% attack speed. While both attack speed bonuses are active, you deal 30% increased damage against CC'd enemies. So because Puncture is a marksman skill and our Twisted Blades is a cutthroat, this uptime is permanent pretty much. So for Paragon, starting board, I ended up getting Closer as my first glyph. I really wanted the bonus immediately, which is a 10% damage reduction when you're wielding a melee weapon, but it also grants cutthroat skill damage every 5 dexterity, right? So in this, it's not leveled up, but I was still able to get 50 dexterity total, so I have 18.5% cutthroat skill damage, and I have my bonus active. I also took Skillful and went up the right side for Prime as well, so I have those damage nodes. I then went up to Lawless, got that extra armor, and then for my first board, I'm running Cunning Stratagem, and I'm rushing straight to my glyph so I can slot in Exploit. The goal here is to get Exploit activated, take Finisher, take Lawless, and then come all the way up to Dominant, and then move on through the Paragon. Because of how the Malignant Hearts work, especially when I'm going to be farming for our tier 4 super, the Paragon that I normally would go with is going to be changed up a little bit. So as I progress, I'll, work on that, and then I'll get the guide out. So there are things that you should do early on that will help you level. And I highly recommend it, especially if you want to get through your capstone dungeons very early. That's grabbing the Blade Dancer aspect, which allows our Twisted Blades to come back and start twirling around. And then the Might aspect, which is basic attacks grant 20% damage reduction for X amount of time. Remember, basic attack is our Puncture. Disobedience, even through the nerfs, this is still a mandatory aspect. Armor is armor, now so more than ever. On top of those aspects, again, always look for the Cage Heart of Trickery. These drop so much early on, and they will carry you through leveling. Use it as an escape, use it to reposition, just use it constantly. What I did even early on was running 2 subterfuge skills between Dark Shroud and Poison Trap. If you want to do that, you can do that. Now, while you're leveling, the rest of your gear does not really matter. It doesn't matter until you start hitting World Tier 3. While you're leveling, the only thing you should be looking for and prioritize is Weapon DPS. So if you are running melee rogue, you want to prioritize the Weapon DPS on your melee weapons. If you are running range, obviously you want to look for range DPS weapons and prioritize the higher DPS. Another thing is Weapon Mastery. So with swords, again, I recommended just to run swords in your main hand. If you want to run an offhand dagger, you can, but make sure you run a sword in the main hand for the increased damage. For your range weapons, under Weapon Mastery, crossbows will grant you crit damage. Bows will grant you increased damage to vulnerable. Now, crossbows, I tried to stay away from because early on, you don't have enough crit chance to make this worthwhile. Instead, bows are what I opted to use when I was leveling in the beginning because I started out as Flurry and Rapid Fire, and it allowed me to deal increased damage to vulnerable enemies. You don't have to follow this to a T, it's just my recommendation. So aside from the 3 aspects, if you opt to just run range rogue like a pen shot, I started out Rapid Fire and Flurry to pen shot, because I ended up getting a trick shot aspect, which you can find here. I then transitioned into twisting blades at level 35 because I was fed all the items I needed to start my infinite poison stacking rogue. So I ended up getting bursting venoms, I got inner calm, and I got expectant. So this is one of the main reasons why I was able to do all the capstone, or both of the capstone bosses, so early. So this is what I did to level. So what I did at day 1 is I grinded with my dad. We casually played through majority of Corman's storyline, which is eventually gated by seasonal journeys. This is something that was weird, but honestly made a lot of sense actually. Other than that, we did cellars, events, and a few dungeons and strongholds with a few side quests. And because we did all that, we were able to farm some mats and craft a good amount of elixirs early on. Eventually, I did break off and leveled solo, which I then started Kordragan Barracks at level 27. This stronghold starts at level 30. So I went in at level 27, and with the Trickery Heart, this was insanely easy. So you would start by climbing up a ladder every time that you wanted to log off also, and you would just aggro everything and you would stop right up here towards the keep, the main part of Kordragan. Here, I would drop a shadow trap or a shadow decoy by dropping a poison trap. It would taunt everything. I would pop my shadow imbue, so I would just get up and I would blow everything up. As long as you were running shadow imbuement, everything would just explode. After capstone 1, I went to world tier 3 and went straight to Temple of Rot. Temple of Rot is located in the Dry Steppes, right above Gironde. You may be thinking, if you don't know how strongholds scale, you may be thinking that, okay, well, wasn't things a little too hard? What you think should be level 55 to 57 mobs is not the case. Strongholds, even if you were in world tier 3 or 4 underleveled, will scale to your level. What it is +2 of your current level. So because I went in at 39, the mobs in Temple of Rot and World Tier 3 were actually level 41. But I still got the 100% increased XP gain because I was in World Tier 3. So because of this, it was insanely fast to go from 39 all the way up until 49. I got 10 levels here within a couple hours. It was insanely fast. What I thought was funny is this was during the campfire stream. By the time it started is when I started. By the time it ended is when I was 47, 48. At 49, I started doing nightmare dungeons all the way up until 55. And then I went into capstone 2. Then after capstone 2 is where I'm at now. And what I'm doing now is I'm farming blind burrows. And yeah, they're level 73. But I'm able to handle it because of the aspects, because I have disobedience, because I have might. I lucked out and I got condemnation. I actually got a 717 condemnation dagger, upgrade it fully, past the 725 breakpoint. It rolled a 30% core skill on it. If you followed any of my other guides, you know that I actually really love combo points and I love this dagger. So I was extremely blessed to get this early on. And what I plan on doing now is keep doing the blind burrows runs. I'm accumulating all my ancestral gear. I have it in my stash. Once I hit 60, I'm able to equip my ancestral gear, including weapons, which are going to be massive for the scaling. And yeah, I plan on doing this up until 63 to 65. And then from there, for the remaining 35 to 38 levels, we'll just spam nightmare dungeons. And that is my plan. I will come out with a follow-up video in the next week or so. And then the end plan is to target farm Eagle Horn Bow and make an updated pen shot rogue build. So yeah, this is my 1 to 50 Poison Blade Twisting Rogue leveling build / guide. If you watched until the end, I appreciate you. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more daily Diablo 4 content. And until next time, amigos, take care.